Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Hello, Ginger Girl, Brenda Joe, Nutter. Good to see everybody. So, I'm sure that you saw by my thumbnail out there that we're going to be talking about the Idaho 4 case tonight. Um, why not Sebastian, you might ask? Well, there's really nothing to report other than a bunch of stuff going on. And by stuff, I mean not good stuff. So, um, I just because I don't want to be in the middle of that, right? It's not helping us find Sebastian, and so you know, I've been struggling for a little while. Well, I guess ever since at night decided not to put any more updates up because they're spending the time looking at leads, right? Um, and so without lack of information, law enforcement isn't giving anything. I mean, we're just rehashing old stuff. And when you just kind of run out of things to say, I will still be, our, our porch is still lit up for Sebastian, right? I'll still be putting out his picture every single day. And of course, when there is some valid information coming out about his case, and absolutely, we will jump right on it. For sure. Um, I think most of you know where my heart is for Sebastian. I want him home. I want him home with his dad. That is my heart. And um, not talking about him every night doesn't mean he's not on my heart. Okay. So I just want all of you to know that. And having said that, there are other cases out there. For example, it's probably a good time to talk to everybody. I was on YouTube a little over a year ago, had started doing videos and things. And it was kind of before I really started getting my long COVID symptoms. Um, but as I was trying to grow, I kept seeing all the garbage going on out there, and honestly, I got very discouraged, very quickly. And just starting out is probably not good, right? But having said that, um, I had reported on the Bryan Koberger case. So we're going to listen to my overview of a little over a year ago. And I did speed it up a little bit just because at that time I was so unsure of myself and not confident. But you're actually going to see me about a year ago um, on screen, right? And um, yeah, it's sped up a little bit. It's I don't know, about 20 minutes long, something like that. But it just gives us an overview of what happened in the Idaho 4 case, right? Um, and so I'm going to share that with you right now. Please be kind, guys. Remember, this is when I was first just starting. Oh, gosh. All right. So here we go.
Hi guys, it's Brandy again. I hope you guys are having an awesome day. And I want to remind you that in any of my videos, um, when we're talking about the perpetrators in our cases, remembering that they are um, innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Today we are talking about the Idaho 4 case and the perpetrator, Bryan, the alleged perpetrator, Bryan Koberger. Um, so on November 13th in 2022, in a six-bedroom home that was off campus, 1211 King Road in Moscow, Idaho. Four University of Idaho students were found unalived in their off-campus home. Ethan Chapin, 20, from Conway, Washington. Madison Hogan, 21, from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Santa Kernodle, 20, from Avondale, Arizona. And Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, from Rathdrum, Idaho. So a horrible, horrible tragedy. Um, and um, Santa and Ethan were found on the second floor. Kaylee and Maddie, who had been friends since childhood, were found on the third floor in the home. Um, and I can't even imagine what this must have been like. They were, um, the police believed that this tragedy happened between 4 and 4:25 in the morning, and 911 call was not made until like afternoon. Now there were two other students, girl students in the home who were still alive. Um, and one of them was Bethany Funk, who was down on the first floor. Um, and the other one was Dylan Mortensen, who was in a room on the second floor, like across from the room that Xana and Ethan were in. So we'll get to more of that later. Um, but on November 15th, the day, 2 days after this happened, Moscow Police Department issued a statement saying an edged weapon, such as a knife, was used um, in this tragedy, and no weapon was found. On November 16th, they held a press conference and stated that it was a targeted attack and that they did not have a suspect at this time. A day later, on the 17th, the Latah County coroner um, stated the cause of death was that the victims were likely asleep when they were with a large, some victims had defensive wounds. So now between that time and December 7th, there was so much speculation going on. That was a long time. The community was starting to get worried that they didn't have a suspect, that they didn't know what was going on. They were getting upset with the Moscow Police Department, and there was a lot of speculation online. People being named, called out, friends, boyfriends, professors. It was incredibly crazy. Um, who all turned out to be innocent, by the way.
Do you guys remember that? For those of you who may have followed this case, um, all the people that were being called out in social media, the Jacks. There was a hoodie guy in this one, was there not? Um, that's kind of weird when I think about it now. Um, and I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, you guys, stop, 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 you know? And they didn't. And they were so sure. But here is a case where the police did come out and say, this person is not, has been vetted and not guilty. This person has been vetted and is not guilty, you know, and did that right, pretty quickly in this case. And I was really glad about that. Um, they, I will say, in Sebastian's case, they did come out and say that the hoodie woman was cleared as well, right? So that's kind of interesting, right? It was our first person in the Sebastian Rogers case that was found not to be um, not to be guilty and actually cleared in this case. Oh, Nutter, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I appreciate you. Um, and so does Lady. Thank you, thank you. You're so sweet. I appreciate that. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit because I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was horrible. It was horrible, really horrible. The other thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is a woman thing. I liked my hair here, and the last 2 times I went to get my hair cut, they like chopped it off. All right, just a side note.
Um, and I remember thinking I would really hate to see this happen. I think everybody was getting concerned, and my thoughts were I would really hate to see nothing, that the case goes cold and that they would not be able to find the perpetrator, you know, and how sad it was because these kids in their early 20s, just starting their lives. They were enjoying the college life. They were just starting their lives. Oh my goodness. And I can't even think, I mean, how quickly they were cut down and how that community must have been feeling because it's not a very big community. And most of the community,
Thank you,
over
Nutter.
half of the community, were college students who all took off because it was Thanksgiving, Christmas break. Many of them left, and I don't blame them. On December 7th, though, police announced that they were interested in speaking with the driver of a white Hyundai Elantra, years 2011 to 2013. Um, that Elantra was spotted by Ring cameras near the scene at the time.
So, guys, on this, remember when they found Bryan? His white Hyundai Elantra was a 2015. So, when they put out that they were looking for a 2011 to 2013, do you think Bryan was running scared, or do you think he was like, ha ha ha? Because remember that um, Bryan had all this. I mean, he was going for his master's, right, in criminology. And so, mm, you know, I guess what I want to say is that he was smart, you know, and if he is the person that did this, um, then allegedly, right? If he's the person that allegedly did this, um, then he planned a lot of it, I believe, right? So let's continue on.
Time that this tragedy happened. Okay, so now everybody's looking, and there was cases, and that's awesome because people saw it, people were trying to help, um, and there were cases that were not that vehicle, and yet there must have been maybe one that did know what that vehicle was. I don't know. Um, but on December 15th, we find out that there are two traffic stops very close together, right, in Indiana. And in the car was 28-year-old Bryan Koberger with his father alongside him in the passenger seat. Okay. Now, these stops by the Indiana police officers, they stated why they stopped them, but they just chatted with them both times. They didn't give them a warning. They didn't give them a ticket, nothing, not even a written warning, nothing. Right. And very weird stops. Heard different stories. I don't know what the true story was behind the whole thing as to whether the FBI ordered that or not. I heard yes, and then I heard no, and I don't know. It doesn't matter. The fact is, they happened, right? The FBI was keeping an eye on him because they did have him, I guess, from very early on in the investigation. Bryan Koberger was on their radar, which is good to know. And of course, they're not going to tell the public that because then what's Bryan going to do? He's going to go get rid of everything, right? So you don't want to bring that out, and you don't even, I mean, I look back and think I'm glad that they didn't say that they had a suspect. I'm glad that they didn't publicize any of it, that they kept a lot of this close to their vest because, that could have given Bryan time to get rid of a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. I do think that the two stops in Indiana, um, I guess they were close together in time and in mileage. Um, I think those were unfortunate because I think at that point, Bryan probably thought something was going on. But on December 30th,
Um, and Nutter, I agree with you. They didn't check for everything, and it was very suspicious. So even though I heard different things, yes, they did um, have him stopped. No, they didn't. Blah blah. I think they were keeping an eye on him. I think they were wanting to see if he would take off, which he didn't do, right? um, but he had to have been shaking in his boots. Allegedly, if he did this. Now, Nutter, I know you said that you find it hard to believe that it was only one person in 15 minutes. You know, I don't know. I mean, I can understand what you're saying. It does seem almost next to impossible when you're talking. I mean, when you're talking about someone taking the lives of 4 individuals, not by a pew pew, but, you know, with a KNIFE. um, and I don't mean that to be funny. It's just I have to watch what I'm saying, right? But it takes a lot of strength and a lot of stamina, I would think, because first of all, probably on the first hit, right, they're going to wake up and start struggling. So you're struggling with 4 different people. 15 minutes. I don't know. Yeah, it would be very tiring. So the that is another reason why I think that, because remember, Dylan Mortensen saw the person walk past her, all in black, right? Just feet away from her, right? And that person had to have seen her. But I think at that point, that person had to have been just drug out, right? I mean, you don't have any more stamina at that point. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what the trial brings, I think. But let's continue.
they arrested Bryan Kohberger, 28 years old, in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, at the home of his parents. It was in the middle of the night. I don't know if it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And I think um, because the time changes, you know, I don't know what time it was in Idaho compared to when in Pennsylvania. I think both times were given, and it doesn't really matter, but it was in the middle of the night. And um, Bryan was found. We now know this. We didn't know this at the time, but Bryan was found in the kitchen, awake, with black t-shirt and black shorts on, with medical gloves, and he was taking garbage and putting them into little Ziploc bags. Okay, very strange, very strange. But it almost does sound like somebody that's trying to hide their DNA, right? Well, on that night, they actually had search warrants for the house. So not only did they take a cheek swab, Bryan, for his DNA, but they also gathered a lot of things. They gathered black clothing, black masks, black gloves, obviously, computer information, his phone, I don't know, a lot of other things. And from the white Elantra, they actually took the gas pedal, the brake pedal. They took the seats, the floor mats, the headrests, a lot of things from the Elantra as well. So they put him in jail that night in Pennsylvania. Um, his extradition hearing in Pennsylvania was on January 3rd, and his temporary lawyer at the time said that Bryan waived his extradition to Moscow, Idaho. He wanted to get back, and he was eager to be exonerated. So then on January 4th, our suspect, Bryan Koberger arrived in Idaho. On January 5th, they relieved a lot of the court documents of the case because this is what they had to present to Pennsylvania circuit court judge, in order to get the search warrant and arrest warrant for Bryan. Um, that a knife sheath was found um, in the home on the bed next to Maddie, and on that button was DNA that was found at the home in Pennsylvania. Um, there was a witness that claimed she saw a person 5'10" or taller, a male, not very muscular, dressed all in black with a black mask, and he had bushy eyebrows. The person walked to the sliding glass door right past her, and she, she was frozen in fear, evidently. And once he got to the sliding glass door and let himself out, she locked herself in her room. This, they alluded, that was someone with the initials of DM, which would be Dylan Mortensen, one of the surviving victims in the home. Koberger's phone records showed the phone stopped reporting a signal at 2:47 on the night of the tragedy, and appears to turn back on at 4:48 a.m., closer to his home. So it meant that he had the phone with him. However, he must have turned it off or had it in airplane mode, right? So there were 12 other instances where the phone had pinged right near the home, near or at the home. Um, on January 12th, Bryan Koberger appeared in court in Idaho. The preliminary hearing was set for June 26th, and he waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing because he knew that him and his lawyer wanted to see what kind of information they had, what kind of evidence they have, you know. She needed time to prepare, and so he waived his right to a speedy preliminary hearing. So it is set for June 26th. But some of the things that we know, first of all, Bryan was a PhD student at the University of Washington. He was a teacher's assistant, and he wasn't doing very well at that. And I guess he found out once he got back to Pennsylvania that they had fired him because he had several run-ins with his professors and female students in the class, and something about not grading consistently and grading the female students worse than the male students. And I don't know. Well, this is alleged. We don't know, but that's what we've been told. We know that in late October of 2022, he had messaged one of the victims on Instagram. And when she didn't get back to him, he messaged her a few more times. There was also several pictures on his phone of this victim. We're not certain who this is, and I'm sure this is all going to come out later. There's been a lot of speculation again, but I like to stick with the facts. I don't want to ever give something that's not true unless I say it's been speculated, right? So we know that on the day or the day after he was murdered, excuse me, I'm so sorry. On the day or the day after he was arrested, wow, they did it. They did a search warrant at his home in Pullman, Washington, his apartment, which was student housing. And I don't know, they took. I remember thinking at the time I was really disappointed in what they took, but some of the items that they took could be very instrumental. There were hairs found. If any of those hairs were the victims, that's solid gold, right? There was animal hair found. If that animal hair was Murphy's, that's solid gold. They took computers and items that had dark red or brownish stains on them, possibly blood. And I don't know what all else from there. Um, but so now they have, they also searched his office at the University of Washington, but I guess nothing was found there. There was nothing there. Um, so, there's been a lot of speculation in this case, and
All right, let me catch up. All right. Yes, Nutter, that's true. Some of his family members were suspicious of him. Hello, Queen of ASEAN. Good to see you. Juicy Jules. So, yeah. Yes, long COVID symptoms. Not fun, let me tell you what. But yes, I mean, when you think of everything that we don't even know all the evidence that they took, right? We don't even know what they have total. They have kept things very close to the vest. I think you've got somewhat of an idea as to the basis of the story now. And for those of you just coming in, this is me over a year ago talking about the Bryan Kohberger Idaho 4 case. Okay. So now I'm going to kind of catch us up a little bit. And the next thing that I wanted to talk about was something that I found very interesting. Let's go ahead and listen to this. Poconos man accused in Idaho college murders also investigated for another home invasion. So let's hear what they have to say.
College murders case, officials now say the Poconos native Bryan Kohberger was investigated in connection with an earlier home invasion. Now, new body cam footage shows police responding to an alleged home invasion just 1 year before the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students, and it was less than 10 miles from their off-campus home. According to the police report, a woman said a masked intruder entered her bedroom in Pullman, Washington, holding a knife without saying a word.
I heard my door open and I looked over and someone was wearing a ski mask and had a knife. And so I kicked it out of their stomach and screamed super loud, and they flew back into my closet and then ran out my door and up the stairs.
Officers found no suspect or evidence when they arrived on.
That's kind of creepy weird, isn't it, guys? A man with, that in their hands. Scary. Home invasion.
The scene. Kohberger was then named a person of interest in that case shortly after being arrested for the stabbing deaths of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Zaina Coronado, and Ethan Chapin. But a report revealed that Kohberger was not yet enrolled in Washington State University, nor was he visiting the campus as a prospective grad student. Pullman police say that he is no longer a person of interest in that break-in, and it remains unsolved. Now, there are questions if the defense will try to use that to raise doubt in Kohberger's murder trial.
Without a doubt, Bryan Kohberger's defense team is going to try to raise reasonable doubt by pointing to an alternative suspect. In using this alleged burglary, the question becomes, why would a judge admit this evidence where nothing about this case tends to prove that Bryan Kohberger was not the murderer?
As for Kohberger's murder trial, a judge has entered a not guilty plea on his behalf, and he could face the death penalty if convicted.
So what do you guys think? I'm curious. Do you think that this
a huge automotive audience?
Do you think that this would be instrumental for defense? Or do you think the jury might think, I don't know, right? Because obviously there would be questions, was he visiting Washington at that time? They said he wasn't enrolled yet. Usually I know that when my daughter was thinking about going to CNutter, good. I'm glad you know that. I saw this not too long ago, and I thought I need to talk about that on a video, right? um, but yes, so okay, stop sharing that tab. But yes, I mean, I think it might be, of course, defense is going to use it. Um, I will say this: Bryan's defense attorney, Ann Taylor, is nobody to mess with. He's got himself a good attorney. There's no doubt about that. He got very lucky. And of course, we all know he's helping in his defense, right? So, but let's go to the next one. I'm going to read to you. Get this one. Okay, yeah. So Bryan Kohberger update: Idaho quadruple murder trial gets a new date. The quadruple murder trial of Bryan Kohberger, and I don't know if any of you know, but the trial was changed to Boise, Idaho, from Moscow. And there's a new judge, new prosecutor, all kinds of stuff going on here. It's crazy. But it said it will be pushed back 2 months. Kohberger, 29 now, he was 28 when he was arrested, faces 4 counts of first-degree unaliving and 1 count of felony burglary, charged in the fatal tragedy of University of Idaho students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapman in an off-campus residence in 2022. The trial was originally scheduled to begin in June 2025. District Judge Stephen Hippler set the new start date for August 11th, with jury selection beginning July 31st. The trial is expected to run through November 7th. The change follows concern raised by Hippler at a September 26 hearing that the initial trial schedule interfered with the entire summer vacation period, which could pose difficulties for jurors. The proceeding was the first time Kohberger appeared in an Ada County courtroom. At the hearing, Hippler suggested moving the start date to May or September. Prosecutors favored the earlier date, while, of course, the defense preferred the later date. The June start date was set by Judge John Judge, who was the original judge of Idaho's 2nd Judicial District in Latah County, who was initially presiding over the case. The trial was relocated from Latah County to Ada County last month after a ruling by Judge in the defense's favor. Hippler took over the case when it was moved. Hippler also set the daily schedule for the trial, which will begin each day at 8:30 a.m. and conclude around 3:30, Monday through Friday. There will be a lunch break each day of around 45 minutes. Hippler noted that some weeks could be shortened due to other obligations of the court. Kohberger could face the death penalty if convicted. The defense has argued that the sentence would be unconstitutional in a series of motions. Prosecutors have said that they intend to seek the death penalty if Kohberger is found guilty. In one court filing, they said they had not identified or been provided with any mitigating circumstances to bar them from considering capital punishment. A hearing on the subject is scheduled for November 7th. Well, and that was already done. So deadlines for submitting experts and trial materials were also set. Kohberger is now being held in the Ada County Jail in Boise as he awaits trial. Ada is the largest county in the state with a population of nearly 495,000. They moved his trial because they felt that he would not get a fair trial if it remained in Moscow. And typically, Moscow is a college town, right? So I think, you know, they were probably right about that, right? But it does make it harder for the victims' families to come, like the Gonzalez's, the Mogans. Um, I don't think Ethan's family intends to attend the trial. They said they were not going to come. Yes, his car was seen in the area. His phone pinged in the area. So yeah, it's this case kind of got me, as well. Because of the horrific circumstances surrounding it, right? I mean, 4 college students in their 20s, guys, 19 and 20. It's horrible. They had their whole lives ahead of them. They're in college, they're partying. I mean, it's horrible. I just feel bad, for their families um and in the beginning social media was a nightmare, you know. I'm glad that's calmed down. I don't know what it's going to look like closer to the trial. But this is a case we will follow for the trial because of that. I think it's really important. So let's see. The next one is one of the last things that I found today. Oops. So, okay. The quadruple murder trial of Bryan Kohberger in Boise, Idaho will be pushed back 2 months. Oh, we already read that one. Let's tab. Sorry. Prosecutors in the case against Bryan Kohberger, the man charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students, may call more than 24 expert witnesses in a host of subject areas, including DNA analysis, cell phone geolocation, and crime scene reconstruction to try to prove his guilt at trial. So none of the state's experts detailed to the defense last month in a sealed court filing were previously disclosed to the public, but prosecutors identified a handful of their planned trial witnesses in a newly released legal brief, which published to an Idaho court's website Thursday. 2 FBI agents are among the top 25 expert witnesses for the prosecution, the filing read. Special Agent Nick Balance, a member of the FBI Cellular Analysis Survey team, will offer his opinion about where investigators allege Kohberger's cell phone was at different times before and after the quadruple tragedy in Moscow. Special Agent Tony Imel, a video identification expert, will testify about how he settled on the suspect's vehicle as a white Hyundai Elantra. Kohberger owned a 2015 version of the sedan. In addition, Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabbutt, in the elected office since 2006, also is listed as a possible expert witness. She issued the 4 victims' death certificates and oversaw the autopsies performed by the Spokane Medical Examiner's Office. Mabbutt has more than 40 years of experience as a registered nurse, the prosecution wrote, and also works as a criminal defense attorney in Moscow. Other still unnamed experts are expected to speak to the toxicology results for the 4 students, the filing read. The victims were each out late into the evening with friends before the early morning attack in November 2022 and an off-campus home in Moscow that took all of their lives, according to publicly released videos and the probable cause affidavit for Kohberger's arrest. Kober, Ko, Koberger is charged with 4 counts of first-degree unaliving and 1 count of felony burglary in this tragedy. The victims were Kaylee Gonzalez, 21, of Rathdrum, Madison Mogan, 21, of Coeur d'Alene, Xana Kernodle, 20, of Post Falls, and Ethan Chapin, 20, of Mount Vernon, Washington. Okay. So, of course, the defense requests delay in the deadline for their own expert lists. They've been requesting delay after delay, guys. But it's set to start in August. Jury selection is scheduled to begin on July 30th. So, if convicted, I mean, he could be sentenced to death. So, very interesting case. Home invasions are concerning. They really are. But like I said, Nutter brought up a really, really good thing. They stated that he did all 4 of these within 15 minutes, guys. So, is that possible? I don't know. Do they have the right guy? I think so, from the little bit that we do know. But was there more than one person? I don't know. Koberger seemed like kind of a loner. He wasn't a very likable guy. Not at all. Women thought he was weird. He was kind of like stalkish and just kind of strange in the way that he talked to women. I don't think he liked women, and I think that's part of the reasons why he was accused of, downgrading them, grading them lower, I should say, on their papers and things like that, than the guys in the class, which, makes you wonder what could make someone so mad that they would. Yeah. I mean, was it that he was mad, or was he trying to commit the perfect crime? That there's a lot of speculation out there as he was trying to commit the perfect crime. And, I mean, Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who wrote about, I'm trying to think of the serial killer's name. Can't think about it, but yeah. But anyway, he took her class. So, I mean, there was a lot of things, guys, that a year later are coming back to my mind, and I have to kind of sift through everything that's coming. He had a questionnaire online, and it was specifically to people who had unalived others, and how did they feel before and after they did it. It really is kind of strange. So, was that first home invasion where that girl kicked him in the stomach? Good for her, by the way. That was awesome. Was that a practice run of something? I mean, we don't know. We know that his phone pinged and his car was seen many times even before the actual event. And we know that serial people will, plan and make preparations. So you've got to kind of wonder, right? Got to kind of wonder what he was doing. What was his purpose? What was his motive? Um, we know that he did text one of the victims in this case. We don't know which one it was. Hello, K9. Not a problem. Oh, that's awful. I'm so sorry. Put that up. Everybody, keep that family in your prayers. That's awful. It's hard to lose somebody, especially that young. Good to see you too. I'm sorry you had to go through that. But yes, I mean, when you think about what was his motive, did this victim that he texted, she say something to make him mad? Did she reject him? Because we know that he had frequented a bar in his hometown in Pennsylvania. Why, I'm thinking about all these people that come from Pennsylvania. It does make you see how precious life is. It really does. But anyway, he frequented a bar in Pennsylvania, and the manager had to have a talk with him about it because the waitresses who waited on him evidently he tried to come on to them or something, and then would get mean when they wouldn't respond to him, so he makes you wonder if he was in a way autistic. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm just saying he didn't have very good social cues. So that's what made me think that, or, obviously mental health issues for sure. He was bullied a lot, I guess, as a child because he was bigger, right? But then he lost all this weight and he seemed to gain this confidence. And now because he went on this, like a vegan diet. Nutter, you're from Pennsylvania? And, I mean, I felt sorry for his family, right? He has 2 sisters, I believe, and one of his sisters, questioned the fact that he could have done it, which is sad. Who knows him better than his own family, right? So, I don't know, I believe that they have enough evidence, for him to go to trial. So we're going to see what else they have. We do know that the knife sheath, the holder that the knife goes in, was found underneath Maddie Mogan, underneath her body. And his DNA was on the button clasp, snap part of it. His DNA was found on there. And that was the first room that he went to. Well, no, I guess the first room he went to was what would have been Kaylee's old room. Kaylee actually wasn't living there anymore. She just came for the weekend because she got a new vehicle and she wanted to show it to Maddie and, say hi to everybody and that kind of thing. So they had gone out. And then I don't know if they were just awake in her bed or whatever, but Murphy, her dog, was in her room, and that's the room that Bryan went to first, and then he went to Maddie's room. So that's where he would have taken off the sheath, right? And in all the chaos of what he did, the sheath was left under Maddie's body. And then he went downstairs and he found Xana and Ethan, but I think Xana had heard something and came out into the hallway as he was coming down the steps or something. Something like that happened. We don't know exactly what, but the house is now torn down, guys, which I didn't agree with. I really felt as though they should not have torn down that house. But simply because, like, remember with the Murdaugh case, they let the jury come and, tour the property of where everything happened so that they could kind of visualize it for themselves. It would have been a little bit more difficult for the jury to go to that house, simply because they're in a different county now, right? So it would have been a longer drive. Not that it couldn't happen, but yeah. But the owner of that property bequeathed it to the college, and the college, tore it down, and they don't know yet what they're going to do with the property. But, well, thank you, Nutter. I appreciate that. They don't know yet what they're going to do with that property, but it's a college town. That was a college house, right? A lot of parties were going on in that area. There's a sorority house right across the street that Ethan actually belonged to. So the whole, every time there was apartments, houses right next door, right? And so every time these kids were going from their house to the sorority house to what they were driving past this property, and it was a constant reminder that 4 of their friends had lost their lives there. So I get that. I understand that. It, the whole case was just horrific. I can't honestly wait for the trial so that these families can get some justice, right? I, Bryan has pled not guilty. He's been very smart about a lot of things, but not smart in others. Did he really think that by turning off his cell phone when he got close to the house and then turning it back on when he got close to home? That was obvious, like you were gone, but you were in your vehicle because you were driving and then it went off and then you were driving again and it went back on. Come on. You had your phone with you. I guess that's common, in a lot of cases. So, yeah, it just really makes you wonder what's going on and, what the motive, if there was anyone else involved. As far as that goes, I don't see that, but I don't know. Yeah, it does feel like it's been a really long time. And I know that there are more pleadings and things out there, but they did put a gag order on this case, and so a lot of it was sealed that was coming out and going to the defense. So that was, I think, another reason why there hasn't been a lot going on other than the change of venue, you know, different things like that happening. So it does, doesn't it? Well, it was 2 years ago that it happened, guys. November 13th, 2022. So, yeah. And by the time that I mean, they expect the trial to last until November 7th. That's going to be 3 years, guys, just about 3 years. Really close to the 3-year anniversary when they're done with this trial. So, you know, that's a long time for the victims' families to have to go through this, right? Really long time. And the victims' families have been through it in this case as well. You know, there's been a lot of doxing of the parents going on and different stuff like that. And once again, this old granny does not appreciate that kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, that's another good point, Nutter. Yes. It happened between 4 and 4:25 in the morning, right? Dylan did not call police until, was it 12 something in the afternoon? And people were walking all around before police even got called. Dylan didn't even call police to begin with. She called somebody else. I want to say it was Ethan's brother. Ethan was one of 3 triplets. One triplet of you know what I mean. One of 3 triplets. No. Yeah. He was a triplet. So he had a brother and a sister, his same age, and they were all going to that same college. And yeah, I want to say that she called him because she kind of just walked to the hallway, saw him laying there, and then called his brother to come. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's the other thing, how the perpetrator, whether it was Bryan or not, I mean, did he leave anything behind? With all that mess, you would think that there would be footprints, right? I mean, we don't know what evidence there was. And so, yeah, the whole thing was very strange. Yeah, they told law enforcement that someone was unconscious. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that they walked upstairs by Kaylee and Maddie or anything, but I think they were trying to call them and they weren't getting answers. But yeah, they at least walked to the hallway. But you know, yeah, they're definitely, I think the crime scene was contaminated, but I think there was still enough evidence. I mean, just the knife sheath alone was enough evidence, I think, to help, cinch the case. Who knows what the defense will argue? I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm glad Bryan has an excellent attorney. But what it really bothers me when, like, I mean, they're trying to get things thrown out, evidence thrown out, and I don't know. This case scares me, guys. It does. It scares me. I'm afraid that the person who's guilty could get off on a technicality, right? Oh, I had one other thing. Let me just see here. If still, I saw it the other day and I thought, oh, I want to show you guys this. But I don't know if I still have it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. If I find it on my next one, I will make sure that I have it so that I can show it to you. But it's about the old prosecutor of the case, the one that's in Moscow, and kind of a scary thought. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes in this case, really a lot, guys. But we'll stay updated on it. When August comes, I don't know if it's going to be televised, but we'll we'll follow it and see what happens every day, right? So if there's any other cases that you guys are interested in, you want me to research and talk about, let me know. I have a few cases kind of on the back burner that I've been putting off just because I've been spending so much time on the Sebastian Rogers case. But I mean, real information for that case hasn't been coming out. And all that's going on now is a lot of, for lack of a better word, garbage. And I just won't get caught up in that. So, I mean, if you guys are wanting to hear about that, you'll have to go elsewhere for that, because I'm just not gonna, unless it has something to do with Sebastian. Oh, I'm glad, Nutter. So unless it has something to do with Sebastian, um, and his disappearance, um, then I will talk about it. So let's look at my grannyism for tonight. The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. Right? And I kind of think about that in the fact of though, if you see something, or even thinking about people who may see Sebastian but then don't say something, oh, maybe I should have said something. Nah, kind of thing, and not think it important. And, we don't do anything about it, right? Now, inserting yourself into a place where you don't belong, that's a totally different situation, right? That's not what I'm talking about here. This was Albert Einstein who said this, the world is a dangerous place, but not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing, right? Those who see a crime being committed and don't talk about it, don't come forward, right? And that's what needs to happen. There's somebody, that knows something. In every single case, no matter what we're talking about, somebody knows something and they need to speak, right? Yes, prayers for Sebastian and Seth always, always. Keep them in your thoughts and prayers, guys, because I can't imagine what Seth is going through. Losing his son, not knowing where he is, doing everything he can to find him, and then being attacked by the very people who said they were going to help him, who think they're helping. It's not a good thing, and I can't imagine how he feels. So we need to keep him in our prayers. And if Sebastian is out there somewhere, he needs our prayers, because who knows who he's with. All we can hope and pray for, and that's what we can pray for, that whoever he is with is treating him well. So I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight and for being with me while I share a different story. And I hope you enjoyed it. Encourage you to go back and look at some of my videos. Just give me grace is all I say. But yes, I was on and I took a little break, kind of partly for health reasons and partly because, the garbage on the YouTube streets just kind of got me discouraged before I even really got started. So, all right. So thank you so much, guys. I want to thank everybody that's going to be on the replay crew. I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching another episode of Granny's Crime Busters. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and like and even share the content. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms at YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We really appreciate you guys, and you can also email us at granniescrimebusters@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.